almost all the jobs lost in this coronavirus crisis have been in the private sector. But if you're in the public sector, if you're a public servant paid by taxpayers, almost no chance. Have you lost your job or even lost pay? A symbol of this. Mick Fuller is paid by taxpayers. He's the police chief in New South Wales, a very good one too. In March, at the height of this panic over the virus, the New South Wales Premier decided he should still get a pay rise that she'd promised, $87,000. Now, Fuller himself, good bloke, offered in writing to turn it down, given how many people were copping it from this virus, and that would have saved taxpayers money. But the Premier insisted his pay rise go ahead anyway. She thought it'd be unfair otherwise. Joining me is the panel, Bruce Hawker, who helped to run Labor campaigns federal and state, now head of the Campaigns and Communications Group, and Sky News contributor and broadcaster Jane Marwick from the Jane Marwick Show, a new podcast about to launch. Now, Jane, does it make sense to push a pay rise onto a public servant when so many Australians are losing their jobs?
No, it doesn't, Andrew. And back in early April, I put out a tweet asking people how they felt about politicians and public servants and whether or not they should, say, take a 20% pay rise. Those in the top marginal rate of tax, I hasten to add, because I've been really criticised for this. I don't mean police and nurses. Mick Fuller himself, as you rightly point out, has said that he's happy to forego the pay rise. His salary with that pay rise would be almost $650,000. So many people are doing it tough. There are still a lot of people who can't get JobKeeper or JobSeeker. I think all public servants in that top marginal rate should be taking a pay cut. I absolutely do. Mick Fuller doesn't want the pay rise. Isn't it ironic that it's the Greens who are trying to push this through the Parliament, Andrew?
Oh, I think they're trying to stop it, actually. But Bruce, you used to advise a New South Wales Premier of a different brand of politics. What would your advice in this circumstance have been?
Don't offer it, and if it's offered, don't accept it. The other thing about this pay rise that came through today, Andrew, was that it coincided with a revelation that the nurses of New South Wales who are leading the fight against COVID may not be getting a standard 2.5% pay rise in the coming year, that it may be frozen. So the optics, so the optics of this are really bad. And it was a bad misstep by Premier Berejiklian, who, in the main, Ruby Princess exempted, has managed this crisis pretty well. But on this one, she slipped up badly. And I think if I were her, I would actually turn around and say, look, we've had a second think about this. I've listened to Commissioner Fuller, and we're not going to go ahead with the pay rise. And as Jane says, wouldn't it be a good thing if people in senior positions could actually take a bit of a cut to make life easier for those frontline workers who really are putting their lives at risk on a daily basis?
Yeah, I'm not sure a cut of people at the very top, there's enough money then that flows through to others. But symbolically, I think you're right, Bruce. In the public service, in the private sector is where 1 million people have lost their jobs. It's a bit rich to think that their taxes are paying for pay rises for people who don't have any chance of losing their jobs in this. Jane, we're actually coming out of the virus bans months earlier than the government predicted, drowning now in debt. Yet Labor is telling the government we'll still have to keep its JobKeeper subsidies. It's $1,500 a fortnight to employers to keep people on the employed past September, even longer than planned. Some Liberals, though, say no, it should be phased out as soon as next month. Here's my question. Are we in danger, if the Labor thing takes hold, of introducing a generation of Australians to life on welfare?
Yeah, look, we might well be. It's very difficult because the government's told people that it would be there until, I think it's the end of September. But I know people who are now, this is really interesting in Western Australia because we've had a few more freedoms faster than most states, certainly the one you're broadcasting from, Andrew. And people are saying that they're trying to slow down their business taking off again because they're paying their employees JobKeeper, can you believe it? And they don't want to fall foul of the rules or the ATO. So they're saying, well, we'll just limit how much we're making at the moment because no one wants to fall foul of the ATO. So I would say, and I don't know how you do this, but I would say that businesses who are getting back on their feet, who can afford to pay their employees rather than take it from the taxpayer, should.
Bruce?
Well, that makes perfect sense. But we don't know how long this crisis is going to continue. We don't know how difficult the climb is going to be economically out of it as well. So I wouldn't be being too prescriptive at all about when the JobKeeper or job seeker allowances should be removed. Certainly, I don't think we're in a position to do it right now. And I don't think I think any government that did want to do that would be very brave indeed, because I think there would be a strong response from the electorate over that. The fact that money is coming into households is very important in, I think, keeping morale up and showing people that there is a way out of this. It is very Keynesian, and it's very unusual for a Conservative government to be pushing this, but I think it's working at the moment, and I think we've just got to accept that we're going to be saddled with a fair bit of debt coming out of it. But who is to see this thing coming down the line? And
no, I agree with you. I think it is too. But I agree with you completely on both. You know, it's too early to talk about when to end it because we don't know quite where we're going yet. So we'll leave those arguments for later. But the sooner we stop spending would be actually better in the long run. Jane, to pick up on, you say Victoria, right? Now, it's been today the last state to finally say they're sending students back to school, staggered return to the classroom from May 26, all of them back June 9. But just when schools are finally going back, global warming extremists have announced another climate strike for this Friday. I mean, they're no sooner back than having a strike. Do you think, you'd think, wouldn't you, that students might be keen to actually get back to study at last?
Yeah, I would. I hope that there'll be good social distancing at that climate strike, Andrew. Look, I was watching Daniel Andrews last night on Q&A. I wanted to see what was going on with the schools. It's been incredibly hard for parents who are trying to homeschool. I'm glad to see those children get back to school. As I've said on numerous occasions, you know, if you've got great parents who can teach you, that's fantastic. But as we all know, there are so many kids who are falling behind. I hope none of them are at the climate strike. I hope they're doing their homework. Yeah.
Bruce, just quickly, you used to advise, like I say, a premier that did go on Alan Jones's show. I've got 20 seconds. What do you think about the Labor's engagement with Alan Jones? How's that worked?
It's been very difficult on both sides, I think. But Bob Carr actually used to work pretty closely with Jones. When we were in opposition, we would try to convince him of the strength of an argument, and more often than not, he'd be prepared to take it up. That was the very interesting thing about him. He's not a knee-jerk Conservative. He is able to be reasoned with. He is somebody who will listen and respond positively to arguments. So a very complex man and somebody who has made a big impact on radio in this country.
Thank you, Bruce Hawker and Jane Marwick. Thank you to you both.
Thanks, Andrew.